Hello, my name is Aina Zahra Tarigan. Today in this video I will be going to explain about language typology. So what is the general meaning of language typology? Language typology or linguistic typology is the study of the ways in which the languages of the world vary in their patterns. It is concerned with discovering what grammatical patterns are common to many languages and which ones are rare. Furthermore, typology compares linguistic features within and among languages, then provides a description and explanation of their similarities and differences. Linguistic typology analyzes, compares, and classifies languages based on their shared structural features and forms. Another important thing to point out in this language or linguistic typology is that linguistic typology can be both synchronic or diachronic. So what is synchronic? Synchronic, for example, comparison of languages contemporary to each other, and diachronic, for example, comparison of languages at various stages of their historical development. And according to Croft, 2003, both are equally necessary and can be thought of as complementary to each other. So in the paper that I wrote, I tried to explain and compare the understandings of language typology according to the early scholars or several linguists, namely Johannes Smith, William von Humboldt, and then William Alexander Stewart. Firstly, I'm going to explain about Johannes Smith's theory regarding language typology. In historical linguistics, the wave model or wave theory, the theory that he proposed, he invented, or he found, is a model of language change in which a new language feature, innovation, or a new combination of language features spreads from its region of origin, affecting a gradually expanding cluster of dialects. Dialect diffusion spreads from a given point of contact like waves on the water. So that's basically why he named it wave theory or wave model. So this theory is a substitute for tree model that did not seem to be able to explain the existence of some features, especially in Germanic languages. During the 20th century, unfortunately, the wave model has little acceptance as a model for language change overall, except for certain cases, such as the study of dialect continua and aerial phenomena. So now it has recently gained more popularity among historical linguists due to the shortcomings of the tree model. The tree model requires language to evolve exclusively through social splitting and linguistic divergence. In the tree scenario, the adoption of certain innovations by a group of dialects should result immediately in their loss of contact with other related dialects. This is the only way to explain the nested organization of subgroups imposed by the tree structure. Such a requirement from the tree model is absent from the wave model. Therefore, wave model can easily accommodate a distribution of innovations in intersected patterns. Such a configuration is typical of dialect continua. What is dialect continua? Dialect continua is historical situations in which dialects share innovations with different neighbors simultaneously, in such a way that the genealogical subgroups, they define form of an intersected patterns. This explains the popularity of the wave model in the studies of dialectology. Furthermore, Johannes Smith used a second metaphor to explain the formation of a language from a continuum. The continuum is at first like a smooth, sloping line. Speakers in close proximity tend to unify their speech, creating a stepped line out of the sloped line. These steps are called the dialects. Over the course of time, some steps become weak and fall into disuse, while others preempt the entire continuum. As example, Smith used Standard German, which was defined to conform to some dialects and then spread throughout Germany, replacing the local dialects in many cases. Next, I'm going to explain the diagram that is originally presented by Johannes Smith. So in this Euler diagram, These circles are to be regarded as diachronic. That is, they increase in diameter over time, like the concentric waves on a water surface struck by a stone. The background represents a dialect continuum of no language boundaries. The circles are stable dialects, character, or bundles of characters that have been innovated and have become more stable over an originally small portion of the continuum for socio-political reasons. These circles spread from near small centers of maximum effectiveness, like waves, becoming less effective and then dissipating at maximum time and distance from the center. Languages are to be regarded as impermanent sets of speech habits that result from and prevail in the intersections of the circles. The most conservative languages is represented by the area that is not covered by the circles. The second theory is from William von Humboldt. The theory is called Humboldtian typology. So it is a linguistic myth created by superficial readings of his text. So Humboldt adopted the Schlecht's typology and extended it with the incorporating type of language. Humboldt was very skeptical about the classification of the Schlechts, and eventually he explicitly refuted the legitimation of classifying languages, since languages are individuals and should be described as such. So the summit or keystone of Humboldtian linguistics is therefore the investigation of the character of languages. So Humboldt paid attention not only to grammatical structure of words, but also to sentences. He stated that far more, however, than in individual words, the intellectual diversity of nations is exhibited in the construction of speech, in the range that they are able to give sentences. So this is just the opposite of classification and typology of grouping similar entities together. Humboldt said that characterization must be tackled since it is the ultimate aim of linguistics to see how human mind uses the instruments it has created to investigate the very end of language, speech, and discourse. The necessary structural description of a language is only comparable to its dead skeleton. The life of a language is discourse, a life-giving character to that language. Therefore, only languages that have a multifaceted literature yield the possibility of being described as having characters. The last theory is from William Alexander Stewart. The theory are called autonomy and heteronomy. So autonomy and heteronomy are complementary attributes of a language variety describing its functional relationship with related varieties. The concept obviously were introduced by William Alexander Stewart in 1968 and provide a way of distinguishing a language from a dialect. A variety is said to be heteronymous with respect to a genetically related standardized variety if speakers read and write the other variety, which they consider the standard form of their speech, and any standardizing changes in their speech are toward that standard. So in such cases, the heteronymous variety is said to be dependent on or oriented toward the autonomous one. Overall, heteronymous varieties are said to be under the roof of standard variety. For example, the various regional varieties of German are heteronymous with respect to standard German, even though many of them are not mutually intelligible. From the model theory presented by William Alexander Stewart, local dialects of the West Germanic continuum are oriented toward either Standard Dutch or Standard German, depending on which side of the border they are spoken. Bordering dialects are generally mutually intelligible despite their orientation to either standardized variety. A dialect continuum may be partitioned by these dependency relationships, which are often determined by extra-linguistic vectors. For example, although Germanic varieties spoken on either side of the Dutch-German border are very similar, those spoken in the Netherlands are oriented towards Standard Dutch. whereas those spoken in Germany are oriented towards Standard German. Within this framework, a language may be defined as an autonomous variety together with all the varieties that are heteronymous with respect to it. After explaining all of the theories, I'm going to compare them by finding the similarities and the differences. So I found 2 similarities and 5 differences. I'm going to explain the similarities first. The first data that I found was both J. Smith typology, the wave model, and William Alexander Stewart's autonomy and heteronomy used German language in their theory as a model for language change. Smith used Standard German, which was defined to conform to some dialects and then spread throughout Germany, replacing the local dialects in many cases. And then William Alexander Stewart also used German, which is West German and Standard German, in analyzing the dialects' relationships or orientation to standardized variety. The second one is each of the theories analyzes, compares, and classifies languages based on their shared structural features and forms. That's all for the similarities. Next, we're moving on to the differences. The first one is Humboldt's theory is far more detailed compared to Johannes Smith and William Alexander Stewart's theory, since Humboldtian linguistics investigate the character of languages. He paid attention not only to the grammatical structures of words, but also to sentences. Another difference is Humboldtian typology did not use diagram in characterizing and classifying language features, while Johannes Smith and William Alexander Stewart's theory provide a diagram in representing the similarities and the differences. The third, Humboldtian typology and Johannes Smith have more background history in explaining the origin vision of each of the theory. On the other hand, William Alexander Stewart's theory did not provide any. Johannes Smith used metaphors to explain the formation of a language. In contrast, William von Humboldt's and William Alexander Stewart's theory used literal description. Humboldtian typology is an adoption of Schlecht's typology, whereas autonomy and heteronomy concepts and the tree model and the wave model are the origin version. Last but not least is Humboldt recognized that the concepts of languages are not the same. The words of various languages are never true synonyms, even when they designate on the whole the same concepts. This is the opposite of heteronymous theory proposed by William Alexander Stewart. Language varieties are said to be heteronymous with respect to a genetically related standardized variety if speakers read and write the other variety, which they consider the standard form of their speech. In conclusion, language typology or linguistic typology is to study the ways in which the languages of the world vary in their patterns. It is concerned with discovering what grammatical patterns are common to many languages and which ones are rare. So from the discussion above that I have been explained before, there are 3 theories of typology that has been explained, namely the tree model, the wave model proposed by Johannes Smith, Humboldtian typology by William von Humboldt, and autonomy and heteronomy by William Alexander Stewart. So there are 2 similarities and 6 differences that can be found by comparing each of the theories. It is clear that these concepts of language typology are succeeded in analyzing, comparing, and classifying the structural diversity and the common properties of the languages. I think that's all for my presentation about language typology. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.